It's 2024 now, and technology has made things so convenient. But let's rewind 20, 30, 40 years. What if you needed a phone number? You'd open up the yellow diary with all of that directory and search for the number. If you needed a piece of information, no Wikipedia, it was encyclopedias. You wanted something interesting for the kids, child crafts were open. You want to understand words, dictionaries were used. Now, if you want to search for something, you're just going to Google something. What's interesting is that some of these words become synonymous. If you want to photocopy something, here in India we just say, I want to Xerox something. Not really knowing that that's the company's name and that's not really the task at hand. That's what we're going to talk about today. Google search has been the go-to search option for years. We don't even call it a web search anymore. It's called Googling something. So many have come and tried before, but Google has a brand new competitor that's trying to change the way we search altogether. Are we finally entering the ChatGPT powered search era? That's right. What is ChatGPT Search? Launched late last week. AI-powered search engine that uses other search engines on the back end to power the search results. One of those is Bing, the search engine that's run by Microsoft, which is one of OpenAI's biggest investors. We at Tech Today were the first to try out the beta version of Bing Search, powered by OpenAI. And we thought a lot could be done there. Honestly, it was a game changer. That then prompted Google to level up. That didn't really work because natively, Microsoft Bing doesn't have as many users as Google, but we'll get to that in a bit. But the new feature that we want to talk about combines ChatGPT's natural language understanding with a search engine for up-to-date information. A very similar experience that you get in Microsoft Copilot and other, launch which didn't necessarily do that well. But this one has inline citations, sources, and the overall look and feel is very similar to Copilot. Now, the real question on your mind must be, how do you get to use this new feature? ChatGPT Search is what they're calling it. You require ChatGPT Plus. This is a paid subscription service to actually use the new feature for now. Eventually, they might open it up to all of us free ChatGPT users. So if you're using a web browser, OpenAI has a Chrome extension that sets ChatGPT as your default search engine. That means bye-bye Google. But what if you just want to use it as a web page? You can open ChatGPT as a web page, click on that small globe icon, and there you go. That's how it begins. A similar process on mobile though, in the ChatGPT app, which we use so often for voice commands. Now I've been leaning towards Gemini, but ChatGPT was the OG in this space. You tap on that globe icon and you'll be able to use the new feature as well. So the real question that I want to ask in this segment is ChatGPT Search versus Google Search. How does this comparison really work? How do they stack up against each other? Let's run it through a bunch of queries, show you the output so you then understand how this actually works. The search query that we want to start with is, what are the latest updates on the NVIDIA stock? Now, we met Jensen last week and everyone in India has been going crazy with all the analogies, all the words, all the phrases that Jensen came up with. In fact, he also told us about how everything should not be exported from India. We should be manufacturing artificial intelligence. That's an oxymoron now that you come to think of it. But here are some of the results. Okay, for all of our queries, we're going to go Google versus ChatGPT for you. Google search, and I'll show you a bit of Gemini as well, but largely how Google's House of AI works and how OpenAI's House of AI works. Which one is going to be the true game changer moving forward into 2025? The year's almost over, but our show has just begun. Google search gives you a graph about the current stock price of NVIDIA and lots of information about the company's market valuation, which keeps changing, by the way, first, second, third, a bunch of $1 trillion. ChatGPT Search doesn't give me this graph. It's relatively new, but it clearly shows you the stock price, the company's valuation, and also talks about how NVIDIA has taken over Apple's place in the top rankings and the demand for NVIDIA's new Blackwell GPU. Just to give you a UX sort of a true experience, Google was quicker. It's years and years, decades of search prowess. ChatGPT was more articulate and the layout, honestly, is very refreshing. But let's not jump the gun here. Let's try another search query. We also, being big football fans on the team, all of us support different teams. I'm a Liverpool fan. I wanted to know who is the top scorer in this new revamped Champions League format. Right? Google search gave me a link to UEFA's all-time goal scorer stats. Pretty useless if you ask me. ChatGPT Search, the new kid on the block, actually shows a tabular format of the top goal scorers in this particular season with the latest figures about who's leading the tally with how many goals. What happens, something that just happened a few days ago is also updated. The data sets are relevant and fresh. And ChatGPT also gives stats of the all-time leading goal scorers, Cristiano Ronaldo first and Lionel Messi in second. They're not the GOAT, they are the GOATs of football. Google completely missed the plot on this one, whereas ChatGPT understood what I meant without mentioning the keywords in this season or in this year. So if you want AI to be contextual, you want it to be personal, you want it to be aware, ChatGPT Search is already on the right track. And this is what Sam Altman's been saying all along. He's saying, of course, you expect founders to hype their products, to sell their products, but he himself says, and he's been saying this on Reddit and in other posts, that this is one of the most exciting features that has come to ChatGPT. So we're testing it for you. Let's try another query. Best smartphones under 30,000 rupees. This should be fairly easy, right? In fact, I'll completely obliterate this argument by saying you should just tune in to Tech Today across our social media platforms and on our website and watch the TV show. But let's see what Google and ChatGPT can do in this one. Google search output shows you all the popular products along with current prices as well as purchase links. I guess that's also an affiliate marketing connection there. There's also an option to visit other web pages to look at compile lists with all the pros and cons. But this is the age-old Google way of doing things. ChatGPT Search gives you this top 5 list of some really good smartphones with a brief description of each one laid out really well along with a price. No links to purchase anything directly. I'm guessing that's how they've started. We hope that they can maintain this for some time because otherwise it becomes a shopping experience all the time. But if you've got to pay the bills, eventually when this becomes democratic and opens up to everyone, you might see those shopping links coming up over there as well. What's our verdict? Google search looks much better in this regard as it allows you to either choose other options or directly make a purchase if you'd like to. But that's if you want it to be more convenient. If you're purely there to do research, ChatGPT is an interesting contender. Okay, should we take a water break because it's gotten incredibly hot and humid in Mumbai. They called it October heat. With climate change, it's crept into November as well. But that's something that we always ask before we go in for a shoot. What's the weather like tomorrow or the day after? Or when we're traveling to the middle of nowhere, minus 30 degrees Celsius or plus 40 degrees, we need to prepare accordingly, the whole crew. So the real query is, what's the weather like tomorrow? Now, this is interesting because Google throws up a complete graph of the weather forecast for tomorrow with a pinpoint to my location in Mumbai. I shouldn't be revealing it, but for the purpose of this review, let's proceed with this because Google has access to a lot of that prowess from Google Maps. There's all the stuff they're doing on Android. They can really figure out where you are and how it can benefit you. ChatGPT is new in this department, I think, because there's just one small text which comes in saying tomorrow's weather for the bigger city of Mumbai. No precise location for me, which is great in terms of people not knowing where I am, but not good for me to tell my crew whether to carry an umbrella or wear a jacket or prepare for a day like today. Google is an easy winner here thanks to its ability to really pinpoint my exact location. But it's not always the weather in Mumbai we're concerned with. We bring you the latest and greatest in technology. So sometimes it is Cupertino, the Bay Area, in the middle of Finland, Barcelona, Vegas. We travel a lot as tech bloggers and tech journalists. So let's really figure out what's the one query that everyone's been asking you about is, boss, can you get me an iPhone whenever you're traveling? Around $1,000, right? $999 is how Apple advertises it often. So what's $999 in INR? It's a fairly simple one for Google, I think, but how does ChatGPT really fare? Google search gives me a full graph of the latest valuations and gives me the fluctuations as well, along with the answer that $999 US dollars is this amount in rupees as of that particular moment. Now the question is, can ChatGPT give me the same sort of information or present it in a better way? It gives me the exchange rate on the basis of a single source. So one red flag there, and it's all outdated by a day. The overall calculation is 100, 200 rupees off the mark. So not a huge difference, but if someone's asking for an iPhone, they'll want to know exactly how much they spent, especially given all those reels that go viral nowadays about getting discounts and GST and whatnot. But it's interesting that in this comparison, Google has come out on top yet again. let's try something a little lighthearted. I said we love to travel. I think tech is becoming travel. Tech is becoming auto, it's becoming travel. Tech is everything. That's why you got to stay tuned to Tech Today. But like I said, technology involves so much travel. So what if we want a lighthearted query? Let's talk about maybe the next destination we want to head to. Istanbul? Is that a good one? Okay, the best things to see in Istanbul is something that the Tech Today team searched for as well. This is an interesting one because Google gave AI overviews. That's essentially that little snippet of information that you get below the traditional Google search, giving you a list of all the places and things that you could see in Istanbul, the things you could do, along with a few links on the side. But below that was this massive list of sponsored posts for buying tickets to tourist attractions. That's where Google makes a lot of money. ChatGPT Search gives me a top 10 compilation of places and sites to see in Istanbul with a brief description of all of them. ChatGPT honestly felt cleaner and less cluttered. And if you want information and you're doing research and then you want to find websites like Viator to make those bookings or booking.com, then you have a lot more information to take to those websites and make an informed purchase decision. I personally prefer the ChatGPT way of doing these things. But remember, there's a little bit of a caveat over here because Google Gemini also exists. We have Gemini Advanced with us. And some of these queries, when you ask Gemini Advanced, there are a few blips and issues, but the main thing that I can tell you about Gemini Advanced is that it pulls from Google Search as well. There's another catch. If you're using Copilot or Bing, those are also powered by ChatGPT. And then there's one more catch. In a few months from now, when iOS 18.2 actually comes and we've all got Apple Intelligence, you'll be able to use OpenAI and ChatGPT to pull some of those answers as well. So it's going to be a real fun mix of a DC meets Marvel, a Batman meets Superman meets Iron Man. It's going to be a good mix of AI companions. Now, let's give you our verdict and tell you which one came out on top, at least in this comparison. So now the million, or should I say a couple of billion, no, $1 trillion question potentially is, should you switch to this new product, ChatGPT Search? Look, on Tech Today, we believe that we need to be transparent, credible, and completely honest with you. And so my simple answer is no, not yet. ChatGPT Search is a very clean, super slick and smooth, fresh sort of approach to search, and that's laudable. But when you're talking about content and information, real-time information, especially regarding money matters, expenditure, it can be limited in certain cases on ChatGPT, and that's a big if or a red flag there. One thing I have to say though is Google has lots of ads and the experience has gotten very cluttered. There's all these links and so many random, unnecessary sort of sponsored posts that you have to go through that I'm feeling lucky is really what you want, or you just want a really good AI-powered search engine. That's how AI can be useful. That's where ChatGPT can make a dent, but not a splash. And I'll tell you why. ChatGPT Search is very minimal. It doesn't have any ads yet. That's because OpenAI is charging you a monthly fee. I've paid nearly 2,000 rupees per month for this particular ChatGPT Plus subscription. Google Search, for all of its problems and issues, is still free to use. But now let's get to the meat of the matter. Let's talk pure numbers. The reason Bing never really worked and other search engines came with better privacy and security features. Apple's trying to build one as well, but it's not necessarily made a big splash when it comes to taking on Google. What's the reason? Google has nearly 5 billion users on search. So we're talking billions versus a few million who use ChatGPT. Out of that, the paid subscription, which is incredibly expensive if you ask me, for just ChatGPT Plus, and they're not even giving you this free thing the way we get it on Pixel devices and Google Gemini integrated within their ecosystem, is a few million. So for a data set and in terms of an audience or demographic, that's a very small number. That said, it's good to see companies like OpenAI innovating in this space, and it's always good to have healthy competition. In the numbers game, they don't stand a chance. But this obviously will prompt Google to level up a bit and clean up their search. Say hello to 2025, and obviously this is your first look of what search is going to be all about. There's going to be so much more on Tech Today social media handles. DM me if you have any queries, and most importantly on the Tech Today website as well.